Good afternoon, everyone, and thank you for joining us here today. For those of you who don't know, my name is Stephen King, and I'm a lecturer in media at Middlesex University in Dubai. And I've had the honor of teaching award-winning journalism, advertising, PR, and film students for the past 5 years. And before that, I was with the Etisalat Group and with a number of different PR agencies here in the UAE. I've worked a bit in Kuwait and also in London. And it seems that now I have a new title, which is one of the elders of our industry, which is great. All the hair is gone and I've got perhaps experience to share or some history to share. And so with that, I have been offered this great honor to attend and present this presentation today, where we will be hearing about the CNN Academy in this webinar, which is hosted by the PRCA. Obviously, firstly, we're very grateful for all of you for being here with us, but the University, Middlesex University Dubai, is extremely grateful for the PRCA for inviting us to be part of this process, and we're also grateful for the CNN to be engaging with our students and with the students across the region. It's a great opportunity for our students, and I'm sure that all the young people online are extremely grateful for the opportunity to hear from CNN and Becky Anderson, who's going to come on in a moment. And I hope that our messages of gratitude will go to the UK, the US, into Abu Dhabi and around Dubai. It's a truly wonderful day we're going to have today. And it's lovely to know that we are being invited into an industry, and especially when the person who is inviting us to join journalism is one of the industry's most renowned and celebrated reporters and editors. So today we're going to be welcoming CNN's Becky Anderson, who's the managing editor in Abu Dhabi. She also has her own program, Connect the World with Becky Anderson, which you can watch every evening, actually I'm sure you all have been, 7 o'clock on weekdays. And before Becky comes online, she's just behind screens at the moment in the green room. I've been asked just to say a few words and to set the scene. And I want to do that in a way of a historical look. So some of you on the call, I know from way back when, and some of you have shared this journey with me. But for all you young people, this pretty much is how the industry has evolved in the last 20 plus years. So taking you back, picture the scene, back into the last millennium, before many of you were born. I was starting my career in London. And at that time, the job of the PR person was to know every single journalist in town. We had to know everyone's name, we had to know everyone's title, where they worked, all the different publications in that stable of publications. And at the time, we had the internet starting, new websites were coming up all the time offering news, and the number of journalism titles and journalists was growing and growing massively. But, you know, what's the difference between then and now? Well, a few years ago, I just started at Middlesex, and I had a first-year cruise, my first ever crew. And I went in and I said, which magazines do you all read? And it was The Sound of Crickets. And I thought, well, I didn't know that Crickets was the name of a magazine. Sure. Okay, I'm allowed to tell bad jokes, and there won't be any more, I promise. But then a year or so ago, I met one of our third years at the roundabout, and they were asking me desperately, where do they find a newspaper? Now, before you sort of think that's quite embarrassing, I think if we look at today and where we are with the COVID environment, where you actually buy a newspaper from today is actually a very interesting question. So things have changed in that respect, but in terms of news content and entertainment content, things have also changed. Some things stay the same, some things change. But we still have the inverted pyramid, we still have certain news values, we still have the motto of what bleeds leads. But there is also one other constant that has remained, and that is the news happens predominantly where there is a camera. And we need footage from that camera, whether it's still image or motion picture. Historically, there was a limit to the amount of content that you could get from this kind in the Middle East and in other places. And in 2001, it was limited to a media hot zone such as GITEX or the Dubai World Trade Center, which is why those exhibitions have become so popular. Or in 2001, many of you remember that we had to go to the Dubai Business Channel down at Wafi Car Park. In 2001, there were practically no video cameras, no film studios here. And there was no news, or not on UAE, not in Dubai, not on the Middle East, at least not positive. And when I was coming over, the only hit you would find on a search engine at that time was the Emirates Telecoms company. And when I flew here, I flew on British Airways, because in 2001, we hadn't heard of Emirates, and I was sticking to what I knew best. In 2002, things started to change. CNN Arabic came, and we have a colleague here who's joined us, who was one of the first people there who I engaged with back in the day. 2003, we had Middle East Business News set up, bringing a franchise of a satellite business channel. NBC, Al Arabiya came about in the same year, Al Hurra, and CNN also in Abu Dhabi. As well as that, we had the mobile phone camera explosion. Starting, I would say, with my background with mobile phone and telecoms, with the Nokia 6600, or as Panda, as it was known in Saudi. And then the N series, which really started to break the ground on what was possible to be done with a mobile phone. And in 2006, 2007, with the launch of Twitter and the iPhone, we really entered the world of citizen journalism, and everyone became a witness, and everyone could become a journalist. Since then, citizen journalists have taken the lead in breaking the most important news and driving change both in the Middle East and around the world. And we now have access to more news than we can consume. And some of you right now might have turned off and be looking at another screen whilst you're listening to me and playing something on the computer. So stop. But we have more screens, we have too much content, and our attention is being fought over by many, many more players. But even then, we have a more recent development, which is in the form of video online. For many, many years, YouTube was the king and was the only player in town. 2015, that changed with Facebook offering autoplay on its feed and on Instagram. And then since then, we had a variety of new services, IGTV, stories, streams, snaps, and the list continues, the innovations continue. And this has increased the complexity for news agencies again. So where we used to have a lot of new news agencies for the internet, we now have new ways of distributing and creating content. And the fragmented audience has now been sliced even finer by these social media platforms who are aiming for a greater share of the advertising pie. These social media platforms continue to boom, protected by laws that protect them from the same oversight of content as news organizations. And this has created the environment for fake news and for technologically accomplished organizations to use these platforms to share messages of hate, divide communities, and generally make the world a worse place. And so this brings us to today and the mission that is before you, because we now need a new generation of reporters and journalists, young people who are brave enough to chase the stories that need to be told, even in the face of the uncertainties that the world will spring at them, whether it's COVID or whatever. And you need to be technologically savvy and entrepreneurial to adapt to these changing times and to compete with the artificial intelligence, the bots, and the trolls that are spreading their own messages. And that is why I am personally delighted, and the university is also extremely honored to be here today and to see the CNN opening in Abu Dhabi, and to be welcoming Becky Anderson to come and share her insights into her career and also into what the CNN Academy is all about. A brief introduction. Becky has interviewed some very exciting people. I'm very, very excited at the fact she's spoken to Andrew Lloyd Webber. Okay, but there are others like Jennifer Lopez, will.i.am, Akon, who you will all know, Beyonce, who I've heard of, George Clooney, and Lady Gaga. Her Evening Connect, the World program, bounces from country to country every evening of the week, and it provides insight into the topics such as the US elections, the COVID pandemic in the UK and in Europe, shootings in Nigeria, and even an interesting story of a police graduation event in Egypt yesterday evening. She has broadcast special shows from around the region and has also hosted a live chat with the International Space Station using her multimedia prowess to ask questions which were crowdsourced from social media. And today she's joining us to invite you young people, to follow her in her prestigious career and to chart your own path with the CNN Academy. I have done my bit. I have one last thing to do, which is to say that this video is being recorded, and so therefore you can see it again later and fast forward past me. And if you have any questions, please do type them in the box and we will answer them all towards the end. And I now open the floor to, if everyone can do a virtual clap for me, Becky Anderson. Thank you very much.
And Steve, thank you very much indeed. I'm glad I'm able to work this technology. If I can get a conversation going with the ISS, I should be able to cope with the webinar, shouldn't I? Thank you very much indeed. And thank you all for joining us to discover more about the CNN Academy Abu Dhabi. And I do want to introduce you all at this stage to my colleague and friend, Ali Reza Haji Hussaini, who is the project director for the Academy. And he will provide you all with more on the mechanics of the actual course, the application process, and together we will answer any questions that you might have about how you might get involved, or indeed any other questions you've got about the world of journalism. And I couldn't be more excited about this project. It is one that Ali and I are particularly proud of, having seen this grow from the germ of an idea that we had some years ago when we came here as a team to launch Connect the World with Becky Anderson. From this, the CNN Middle East Broadcasting Hub here in Abu Dhabi, to the Academy's upcoming launch in January. We have seen this, or we certainly do see this, as a natural progression in our commitment to help develop the young talent here in the UAE, young journalists, young multimedia storytellers, and young media executives. Over the past decade, the cornerstone of that commitment has been through summer camps that we've run here at CNN in Abu Dhabi, through journalism days that we have run for some of the 16 to 18-year-olds here in Abu Dhabi, and an internship program through which we've had some really, really terrific talent. And you'll meet some of that talent as we move through the day-to-day, because we've got a couple of testimonials that we want you to hear, because we want those who've actually been involved with us as postgrads to tell you why it is that you perhaps should get involved. The launch of the CNN Academy Abu Dhabi takes the commitment that we've had here to developing talent to the next level. If you haven't already seen the promo that we produce, it's been out on some of our social channels. I'm just going to pause for a moment. And Ali Rez, if you don't mind running that promo, everybody will get a real sense of what we are up to. For 40 years, CNN has earned its place in the world as the most trusted name in news.
I dedicate the news channel, the cable news network.
And for the last 10 years, CNN has been covering the most important moments in the Middle East from our broadcasting hub in Abu Dhabi. And now, your chance to learn from CNN's signature talent. CNN Academy Abu Dhabi, a 5-week course giving you all the tools you need for multi-platform storytelling from the world's leading news brand. Join me, Becky Anderson, and my colleagues from around the world to learn about how we gather news and produce engaging shows, and how you can tell your own stories to the world. CNN Academy Abu Dhabi, coming January 2021. Apply now. And you saw there just some of the work that we have done since we've been here in the UAE, covering the Special Olympics, covering the Pope's visit here. Big news events that have real resonance on the international stage. And I've been very proud to have broadcast from here, because we've put Abu Dhabi on the map and the UAE on the map through storytelling, through events like that. And really, I hope have changed the perception, some people's perception of where we are at in this country. Steve talked a little bit earlier about how the industry has evolved during his career, much of which I have to say resonates with me over my 25 years in the business. I think it's important to note that everything has changed and yet nothing has changed. And let me explain what I mean by that. Everything has changed in terms of the technology that we use to gather news and to broadcast or publish that news. What has also changed, of course, is the advent of social media. And while there is some social good in that medium, sadly, it has become very clear, not least during the coronavirus pandemic and the US elections, for example, and these are just two good examples of late that we are covering on a daily basis. It has become abundantly clear that social media allows for the spread of dis and misinformation, which is a major, major risk to our society and to the world that we live in today. That's a big change that I've seen over 25 years. What hasn't changed in the time that I've been in this business? What hasn't changed is that on a daily basis in our editorial meetings, we often argue about what makes a decent news story and why. I'm sure any of you who've been studying journalism or have studied journalism in the past will have been through sort of journalism 101. What's the news value in this? What makes a good story? And believe me when I say, you know, those conversations we have on a regular basis, that doesn't change. What also hasn't changed about the business in my time, and what we don't argue about, is the art of telling a good story, how you build creative content as a storyteller, no matter which platform you publish that on, be it TV, digital, or social, who you talk to and why, where you gather your ideas, how you develop your narrative, how you source your information, how you shoot your content, how you treat that content, how you verify the facts, how you ensure your journalistic integrity, and how you tell the truth, no matter what the story is. And that is what the Academy is set up to do. It is set up to help you gain that skill set and ensure that you are the best in the business when you get out into the real world, as it were. Living and working here in this region has allowed my team and me to travel the region, telling stories about the people of this region through the prism of this region, providing for a CNN audience, a global CNN audience, a deeper, more nuanced understanding of the people of this region. And in doing so, I'm absolutely sure that we have helped develop a better understanding of the world that we live in. On the flip side, in the youngsters that we have had through our programs here at CNN that I outlined at the beginning of this, but particularly through the internship program, we've given them an opportunity to tell their stories on CNN platforms. And in doing so, I know that we have provided a better, more nuanced understanding of this region for our worldwide audience. So this has been a bilateral relationship that we have had with the youngsters who've been through CNN here in Abu Dhabi, just as we as a team get out to the region and tell the story of the region and the people of this region. And people, don't forget, are at the heart of the stories that we tell. So we have ensured and encouraged people from here to tell their stories on CNN platforms. And that is what this next chapter is all about. The CNN Academy is about immersing our successful candidates in the most trusted brand in news. And that is CNN by far, not just the most trusted cable news channel, which we were when we started 40 years ago. But we are now, through our TV, digital, and social platforms, the most trusted brand in news. And don't take that from me. You can read in about that. The focus groups have delivered on that for us. The louder the voice of truth and reason, the better off we all are. So the CNN Academy Abu Dhabi launches in January. We are looking for applications now and until the end of this month. Ali Reza is going to fill you in a little bit more about who it is that we are looking for and why. So listen up, everybody. We are looking for the best and the brightest talent out there, and we know that you on this call today, on this webinar today, will fulfill that role, or many of you will. I want to pause at this stage just for a moment and introduce you to Lamise, who is one of our successful interns here. And our interns have got into the world of journalism. Interns who've been through the program here in its first iteration are in the world of communications here in the UAE and other places around the world, and have taken jobs in government and various others. And so we've been delighted about the success that we've had with our internship programs. Lamise is one of the young Emiratis who intern with us, and this is her story about the time that she spent with us.
My name is Lamise, and I'm a former intern with CNN, and this is why you should join CNN Academy. I interned with CNN for a couple of months after graduating from university, and it was one of the few internships in which I actually got to see the fruit of my work. By the end of the internship, I had walked out having done 2 of my very own packages that eventually aired on the show, and it was incredibly rewarding to feel that I had contributed my voice to this huge world of storytelling. One of the most valuable things I learned during my time at CNN is the importance of telling local stories with international relevance. I focused on the importance of the Arabic language and how that was a part of my identity that I felt was fleeting, and many youth of my generation would feel the same way. To get to that point, I did a lot of research. I read a lot of articles about the current situation with Arabic language education in the UAE. I spoke to different academic professionals in institutions here, and I even spoke to different media companies that made it an objective to teach children Arabic. While working on this project, I had multiple hats. I was a producer, I was a writer, I was a director, and I eventually also got to supervise the edit of the video. So through this project that I worked on, I was exposed to the different roles of storytelling in the news industry. I would recommend you join CNN Academy because we have stories to tell. And what better platform and better guidance than CNN? When you work with them, you are going to be working with leading experts in the industry who will guide you through the complexities of storytelling. This will be a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity for you because you'll be in an environment where you'll get to do practical, hands-on work. You don't get this everywhere, and you will walk out of it with an outcome that you will be proud of.
Well, that's Lamise, and we have another couple of former interns whose stories we will share with you. But I think Lamise really personifies the sort of talent that we've seen through here and the opportunity that we've been able to afford her. And as we move on to the next stage, as I say, the next era, which is the launch of what is our first global academy. And these will be rolled out around the world. But the first one is here, I'm delighted to say, in Abu Dhabi. And what I'll do now is just hand over the floor just for a few minutes to my colleague, Ali Reza, the project director for CNN Academy Abu Dhabi. And he's going to walk you through when this course launches, how you get involved, and what it is that we are looking for. Ali Reza.
Absolutely, Becky. Thank you so much. As you say, we're extremely excited to launch this in Abu Dhabi. So let me just give you a bit of background and details about what the course is and what it's going to entail. So it's a full-time 5-week course. It's going to kick off on the 10th of January, go all the way through the 11th of February 2021. The first 3 weeks is going to be a combination of live virtual workshops. There'll be a workshop in the morning and a workshop in the afternoon. And in between, the participants will be working on assignments that are related to the workshops and the topics that they're discussing each week. The last 2 weeks will include in-person workshops where they get a chance to have a bit more time with people in CNN Abu Dhabi, and also to get out and to shoot and edit their own story. This is a intensive course about multi-platform storytelling, And we're asking people to really commit to the program full time, given the length of projects and all the different things that they'll be engaged with. So the first 3 weeks, as mentioned, will made up with the different components. There will be live workshops where you can learn how CNN gathers information, how we verify our facts and sources, and more importantly, how we produce multi-platform content for the different CNN platforms that we service. There will be 2 live sessions, Sunday to Thursday, so it'll be quite full on. And then the last 2 weeks will be where you're going to have practical training opportunity, where you're going to come to the Academy, where you pitch a story to the Academy. That's how you're going to get accepted into the Academy. Then you're going to have the opportunity to go out, work with photojournalists, CNN photojournalists, and CNN editors to put that story together. Throughout the first 3 weeks, you're going to get a chance to meet CNN talent from around the world. This is David Culver. He's one of the only international reporters, for example, who had access to Wuhan, China, when the pandemic first broke. So not only will you learn about the theoretical issues related to communications and journalism, you'll also see and interact with real journalists and real issues that newsrooms across the world are grappling with. How do you report during a pandemic? How do you report from the field under different circumstances? You're going to have access to the behind the scenes access to Becky's show, Emmy award-winning Connect the World with Becky Anderson. You're going to see from an editorial perspective how that show is put together, and then how it's also taken to air from a technical and engineering perspective. So a couple of key dates. October 31st, not this Saturday, next Saturday, the deadline for the application. So if you're interested to join and if you want to apply, you have about 10 days to submit your application. Shortlisted candidates will be interviewed in November by a panel comprised of CNN and our partners that we're working with in Abu Dhabi, 2454 and Image Nation. And then the program kicks off on the 10th of January. What are the requirements? Well, the instruction will be delivered in English, so fluency in English is a must. Priority will be given to applicants who are 21 and over by the time the program starts in January. We're not capping the age, but we are asking for applicants to be 21 and over. And you either need to be a UAE resident or a UAE national in if you want to be accepted into CNN Academy. These are what we need to see in the application, and this is very important. We are asking you to pitch us a story, a 500-word document where you outline what is a story that you're passionate about sharing with the whole world. Why is that story important? And how is your angle on that story unique? It could be whatever story you want to work on, and you will have a chance to work on that story during CNN Academy. But of course, we're asking people to think about the practicality of going out and shooting stories as well. You're going to have, a number of days where you're going to work with a photojournalist and an editor. So, you need to think about, can I get this done in the time that I have? We can't have multiple location shoots and cross-border travel for these stories. So as long as you're passionate about your story, it's a practical story, and it's a story that you want to tell to the world in a unique perspective, then that makes a very, very strong pitch. We're also asking people to show us how creative they are. Send us a short video introduction. We want to get to know you. We want to be introduced to you. 1 minute long video introduction. Tell us who you are and why you should be accepted into CNN Academy. Put the pitch together, put the short video introduction together. There's an application form, cnn.academy/Abu Dhabi. I'll pop that in the chat box for those of you who haven't been able to visit it yet. And there you have it. There's your application. As Becky said, this is a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity for people to come join us, learn how we do storytelling, but more importantly, how you can become the best storyteller that you can be. Everyone's a storyteller. For any of you who woke up this morning and posted something on Instagram or retweeted something or shared a post on Facebook, that's you doing storytelling, right? So everyone does it on a daily basis. We just want to give you more tools, more access, more understanding from a global news network into allowing you to become a better storyteller and a better content creator. And that's what we've been doing with the different internship programs that Becky mentioned. And you heard from Lamise earlier. And if you're thinking, well, how's my story going to look like by the end of this program? Well, here's an example from another intern, Khamayo. This is a story she was passionate about telling, and this is what she produced by the end of her internship at CNN.
I never used a typewriter growing up, but for some reason, the sound it makes is quite nostalgic. Somehow stirring in me memories of a bygone era. You see, for a lot of us young Emiratis, reconnecting with our heritage isn't so easy, especially with the record speeds our country is headed towards into the future. But a new exhibition called Lest We Forget is helping us do just that. My mother is not originally Emirati, and so I grew up thinking I was different because I didn't look like my fellow Emirati classmates. But speaking to Michelle Bambling, the creative director of Lest We Forget, I came to realize our collective experiences are very similar.
I proposed the idea of this project to my students because I thought that it would be a very interesting way for them to study their own past. And when they were doing that, they began to discover their own country. They saw that their parents had a similar event. They saw that they had the same kinds of pillows in their homes. They began to look at their country through the pictures that other people had taken.
As I walked around, I watched a short film about how a father had torn up his family photos. And I recalled asking my grandma how my grandfather looked like, when she simply said, "I burnt the photo album." I saw a pattern, which was destroying pictures rather than sharing them. But why?
Initially, the students were hesitant to bring their private photographs to class. They didn't know each other very well, and it was the first time that they were sharing these images.
Later on, I met Safiya, one of the many young people working at the exhibition. I asked if she had donated a family photo and how she felt in doing so.
I actually contributed with one of my photographs that was given to me by my uncle, and it's of my brother and my uncle. At the beginning, I was a bit hesitant in sharing my photographs, but when I saw other people contributing their pictures, it kind of encouraged me to give my photo as well. What we're doing at Lest We Forget is we are collecting memories and archiving photographs that later on in the future would be of great value.
So now, I have a much better sense of how my personal story fits within the overall story of my country. It doesn't matter if we all have mixed backgrounds. In the end, we share very similar past experiences and a common future.
And that's it for me. So back to you, Bex.
Yeah, I think I just want to add that those two stories that you saw from the two girls there, I cannot underscore how important those stories are to tell, not just here in the UAE, but featuring on CNN platforms. Those stories and others that interns here have generated have really helped people around the world to understand who an Emirati is and what shapes the men and women here and their lives. And if we are about anything, it is about explaining, about educating, about opening the door to other people's stories. It's people's stories in journalism and storytelling that really help sort of bring people together and unite a quite disunited world to some degree. So we are delighted to share those with you, delighted that you've joined us to find out a little bit more about the Academy. I think we've got about, 25 minutes left, and so we don't want to shortchange those of you who've got questions about the Academy or about journalism in principle. So Steve, I'm going to hand it back to you so that you can sort of play referee on some of these questions coming in. Ali Reza and I both here to answer anything that you guys have. Steve.
Great stuff. Thank you very much, Ali. Thank you very much, Becky. Let's go straight on with a question I have from Eleanor. How can fresh graduates start their journalism career? What does the recruiting landscape currently look like?
I'll take that on first. I'm sure Ali's got something to add as well. Look, how do you start your journalism career? with an opportunity like this, if I were to explain to you how I started, I did my master's in journalism in the States, and I specialized actually in business journalism, having had an economics degree from university in the UK. So I'd taken quite a bespoke sort of environment, which, by the way, is, I think, and I think Ali Reza will agree with me, really important. If you've got a passion for something, if you're not just a sort of, you know, looking at a kind of general news beat, but you've got a passion for something, be it sport, entertainment, geopolitics, whatever it is, look after that passion, because, you know, getting a little bit more bespoke about what you offer to a media organization is a really, really, really good idea. But I was in business journalism, or I saw an opportunity in business journalism, and I looked at, for example, the Reuters financial journalism course, ended up joining Bloomberg on their financial journalism course. So something like the Academy is akin to the sort of thing that I did. Get involved wherever you can with an organization that's offering an opportunity like that, because it will give you a springboard. It'll give you something to put on your CV, your digital CV, your social CV, as it were, these days. What does the recruiting landscape look like? I am pleased to say that whilst the media world is going through all manner of changes, and COVID-19 is affecting media organizations as it is organizations around the world, and so there are job losses. I also think that there are great opportunities around at the moment. We've got a project called As Equals, which is about gender equality around the world, and it was an initiative that we started in London last year with some money from the Gates Foundation and from the European Commission, in fact. So we had a little bit of extra funding, and we were able to bring on just a writer or two to really get some really, really rich content from around the world. It's been so successful that I just got in my email box today an announcement from CNN that we're actually looking for 6 positions in London now and around the world for the next year to work on that gender equality program. And this is a multi-platform TV, digital and social project that we've got for somebody who's really passionate and excited about the world of gender equality. I spoke to Melinda Gates the other day about the importance of vaccine distribution, not just to those who can afford it in the rich world, but those in developing countries as well. Melinda Gates is hugely involved in gender equality around the world, and I'm so pleased that the Gates Foundation has offered CNN some money for this initiative. So, you know, therein lies just one opportunity out there that we didn't have yesterday and we've got today. So, you know, don't be sort of downhearted or sort of down at, about how the sort of working world looks out there. It's tough. It's really, really tough. And you're going to have to be the best and the brightest, the most engaged. You're going to have to be the most creative. You know, you're going to have to compete for jobs out there, but they do exist. And I see more jobs in the future behind paywalls, where actually, rather than advertising-based content, there will be more subscription-based content, and that allows for sustainability in media business models. And I'd hope that means that the world for anybody out there who is looking for a career in journalism will be a good one. Ali, any further thoughts?
No, I mean, that's spot on. I mean, as you say, I think, you know, it's important not to be generic when you're going into a newsroom environment as a young journalist starting out, and you need to have that sort of niche passion. So be it sports journalism, be it, you know, culture, be it anything like that. I think, you know, we've both sat in rooms where we've interviewed, you know, people for roles, and the ones that stand out are people who are passionate about a specific thing, and then that shows in their work, you know. So and they go out and they create content. And also, I would just add that, you know, in this day and age, I mean, you don't need to come with that sort of legacy skill set. You know, look at, for example, Kellyanne Conway's daughter on TikTok. You know, she's become the deep throat of the Trump era in terms of breaking news that no one else would have access to. But she's doing it through the medium of TikTok, right? So she knows TikTok. And if I were in the newsroom hiring someone and they come to me and they're brilliant at TikTok, to me, that's a great skill set to have. So there's different ways of doing that, but as long as you're passionate about it, I think you have a step up.
Okay, there's a question which is linked to that. It's from Arjun, and he says, in the 21st century, what is expected in terms of skills from a journalist? You mentioned TikTok. What other skills perhaps do they need?
Yeah, I mean, we would expect anybody who's coming in would be pretty proficient in sort of multi-platform understanding. You know, we're pretty agnostic when it comes to the way we publish material these days, although we treat material in a slightly different way. You know, at CNN and various other platforms, you know, this sort of videos that you might see on your social channels might be based on the same picture-rich content that we might use to build TV content, but you might see a lot of words, graphics, data, for example, on digital and social content. You know, the what, why, when, where, how, who. You know, everybody needs to understand how you build good stories. But understanding the way that platforms work, as Ali Reza said, you know, everybody's a storyteller these days. What we are looking for is people who are passionate about certain subjects, who are passionate about learning to tell stories with integrity, learning to tell the truth, who are interested in immersing themselves in CNN's experience in order that they come out of any opportunities that we can provide a more balanced journalist, a journalist with a sense of integrity as well. So enthusiasm, creative sort of mind, you know, understanding the world of multi-platforms these days. Ali, what else?
No, it goes back to your initial point. Everything's changed and nothing has changed. You need to be a good storyteller. You need to understand a good story. You need to spot a good story. You need to spot the newsworthiness of a story. And if you got that, it doesn't matter what changes tomorrow. You know, it's TikTok today, Instagram Reels tomorrow, something else the day after, right? But the story is the story, and you'll be successful on whatever platform as long as you do that.
Good. We've got one question regarding the entry criteria for the Academy. Does the story need to have a global angle? And this is considering that a lot of the stories that you have global outlook. Are you looking for a global angle, or can it be local?
As long as it's a story that we can practically produce during the period that we have. Of course, the UAE is a global place. Everyone's coming from different backgrounds in different countries, and your experience will be dependent on that. So we're not looking for Abu Dhabi, Dubai, Sharjah specific stories, but we're just looking for stories that you want to tell. And more importantly, it needs to be a story that you really want to share with the world in a unique, different way.
So there's a story that we didn't show you, which was again done by one of our interns, a girl called Khadija, who's gone on, and I've seen this question there, so I'm going to answer a second question within the body of this first one, who has gone on to the communications department at Midfield Airport and has done really, really, really well. So she came out of here and got a really good job off the back of it. She made a film while she was here, a 4.5-minute film, which is a long film in terms of sort of CNN content. I mean, that's nigh on a short film rather than a TV package, as it were. And it was called Me and My Abaya. And through her story, what she wanted to do was take a local story, a personal story, and explain to an international audience why it is that a young Emirati not only feels that she should wear an abaya, not everybody does here as young Emirati women, but she said, and why it is that she feels comfortable in wearing an abaya. And she understood that there is a watching public out there, outside of the Emirates, outside of the Gulf, who didn't understand why it was that a woman in the 21st century would wear something that to them looked as if they were covering themselves. She told a beautiful story. She storyboarded it. She went out and shot it. With some help, she sat in the edit suite and she put together a piece which, as I understand it, Ali Reza, correct me if I'm wrong, will be online if you look it up, Me and My Abaya CNN, and I'm sure it's on one of the digital platforms still. told a beautiful story, and inherent in that story was this personal story, a local story, which in 4.5 minutes knocked back, I believe, quite a lot of misperceptions about people from this region. It did more good than probably years worth of sort of activism and and stories that are told about this region. It really went to the heart of who a young Emirati is, and why it is that she feels as passionate as she does about her own story, that of wearing an abaya. It was beautifully done, and it resonated so well. That was a local story which had great international resonance.
And I shared the link, Becky, on the chat, so everyone can go and check that out.
Great, thank you. That was from Aisha. Thank you, Aisha, for the question. Now we have a question from a budding journalist called Reem Maswede. It's a complicated one. How will the CNN Academy improve the quality of journalism in the UAE? And what is your agenda?
What's your agenda, Reem? We don't have any. Our agenda is to spend 5 weeks with really talented youngsters to immerse you, if you are one of them, in the machinations of CNN. We're opening the doors. We've got no agenda. We are opening the doors of CNN to allow you to understand how it is that we are and have become, or are, the most trusted brand in news. So we've got an awful lot to offer. All we ask of our academicians is to bring enthusiasm, creative talent, and stickability. 5 weeks full time is tough. This ain't going to be easy. So our agenda is to, at the end of this, if you want to call it an agenda, our mission on this is to further fulfill the commitment that we have in developing talent in this region. Why wouldn't we give back? The UAE has given a lot to us, so why wouldn't we give back and provide as much support for youngsters here as possible? So that's our mission. It's not very complicated.
Great. There's a question from an anonymous attendee talking about logistics. That's a question we'll come back to you with afterwards, I'm sure. But if you could put your email address, I'm sure we'll be able to answer you that specific detail and share it with everyone as well. But thank you for the question. Now, there's a question here about how you keep, they want some of your secret sauce, Becky. How do you keep coming up with new ideas for Connect the World?
I'm blessed with a very good team. Please believe me when I say I am only a cog in a very well polished wheel. Ali Reza was the executive producer here until last year. Helped me build a really good team, and I am, as I say, very blessed with the talent that we have here. This is very much a team effort. I always say that I work with people, and nobody works for me, they work with me. This is a very rich region, as you know, when it comes to content. We sadly have a lot of breaking news, which can often be not good news, but it's news that we need to cover. But we also cover a lot of news that you might call sort of, non-obvious CNN news. So arts and culture, entertainment, sports. Ali Reza and I have had a lot of fun over the last couple of years, spending time with Mo Salah, for example, the Egyptian king at Liverpool. We did a long format program with him, which was such good fun. Spent 2 or 3 days with him in Liverpool, and really got to the heart of who that young man is. He's a wonderful character. Gigi Buffon, if any of you are football fans out there, legendary keeper for Italy. We spent some time with him while he was still at PSG, for example. You can see where my passions lie, not just in the world of news and business, for example, but I've got a huge passion for sport, and particularly for football. And we spent a lot of time with a couple of days with Gigi Buffon in Paris. Who would know that Gigi Buffon was an art historian? So in order to reflect that, because I knew that, we spent some time with him at the Musée d'Orsay. He drove me through Paris. And again, when you build content, how do you build dynamic content? Stick somebody in a car with you and do the interview while they're driving and listen to some music. Create a really dynamic conversation. And you've got stuff going on. But Gigi Buffon and I spent a couple of hours at the Musée d'Orsay, and I got an art history lesson. He is an amazing specialist when it comes to impressionist painting. So, you know, these are the wonderful opportunities that we have in the world. But when you say, where do you come up with the good ideas? Sometimes the good ideas come to us. We wanted to spend some time with a legend, effectively, and that was Gigi Buffon. We didn't know until we started doing our research that he was also had a huge passion for the world of art as well. So the ideas come in many, many different ways. You know, again, what's changed is the way that we sort of you know, gather news and gather stories, and social media has been really useful for that. Social for good, you know, there's a plethora of really fascinating stuff out there in the world of social and digital, and you just got to weed out the mis and disinformation. So there's lots and lots and lots of good ways. Just, you know, a good idea comes from a conversation you might have with a mate, you know, over a cup of coffee. It's as simple as that.
Brilliant. We've got just a couple of questions just to finish off with, but from Abigail, she's asked, what was the best story that you've written, more or less, the one which you fought for, or the one that changed your life, the one that you really, really, really thought this was the most important story that you just had to tell, and maybe that you had to fight to get the team to accept? I
can't think of a story that the team wouldn't have accepted. Perhaps I'll talk about the story that I feel, one of the stories that I feel most passionate about. And it wasn't fighting the team to get their support for it. It was ensuring that we fought to get the right elements for the story. And that's the story, the very sad story of the demise of the economy and the political situation in Lebanon, for example. I've spent, you know, I've been back and forth to Lebanon a lot, particularly in the last couple of years. We were there this time last year during the protests. We have been back since. Of course, there's, you know, the awful explosion, the port explosion. And what I had to fight for was to ensure that we got the right people on air. And one of those is the former foreign minister, a guy called Basil. I had a very robust interview with him. Let's call it robust. I'm not sure he enjoyed that interview particularly. I thought it was incredibly important at that stage in the history of the Lebanon story and for the future of Lebanon that we properly interrogated and cross-examined one of the characters that is being held or should be held to account for the kleptocracy and the sort of corruption that's been going on in politics there for a long time. So that was an interview that I don't think he would have enjoyed necessarily, but I fought to ensure that I got that interview on air. And then we used our social platforms to ensure that that story got out. And we also used our social platforms to publish some stuff that we'd done on television, which was really a thought piece by me at the end of the TV show, most of which that day we'd done on Lebanon. And it was just a thought piece, and it was important to me that I just really got down my own thoughts. And I mean, we published that on our social channels, and that's done very, very well. There are stories that I have a real passion for, and believe me, I'm tenacious about those stories.
Just two little questions then, just to finish off. Similar notes. So the CNN Academy, the opportunity, is it open to only UAE nationals and residents, or can people who are living outside of the country apply for the program? And as a second note, I think we mentioned earlier the great work that you're doing in diversity, but some students have a passion for sports, and they've seen Christina McFarlane. And do you think that there is opportunity for women to enter the sports journalism field? So
yeah, so let me take that one, and I'll have Ali Reza just take on the specifics on the or who we're looking for and why for the Academy. Christine is a great example of a bevy, let me say, a bevy of female journalists that we have at CNN. Sports journalism, I don't think has ever been richer. I mean, it's wonderful to see, and I know we had a question on this actually, wonderful to see sports teams themselves getting into content development. You've seen that through Man United TV, Barcelona, Spurs, my team, the team that I support, has just produced a documentary on Netflix. So it's great to see the sort of work that sports teams themselves are doing in the distribution of really rich content. But as far as opportunities for women in the world of sport, I say go for it. I know that CNN, I'm pretty sure, I think I said this to you, Steve, earlier on, because weirdly, this conversation came up when we were talking earlier on. I've got a feeling that we might be gender balanced at CNN when it comes to male and female sports correspondents and writers. And if we're not, we're pretty close. So I'm not suggesting that it's always been like that, but for quite a long time at CNN, it has. Christina was actually an intern for me at CNN some years ago. She's done brilliantly, and good for her. She's been an award winner last year with some of the stuff that she did out in Tokyo during the Rugby World Cup out there. So go for it. I say absolutely go for it. If you've got a passion for sport and you're a woman, I've got a young niece who's 22 years old at the moment, who's been asking me how she gets into sports journalism. I'm saying with the passion that you have, you don't need me. You just tap up every organization that you can, from those who are building content for sports teams to something like The Athletic, a new online fantastic sports publication, which has got some of the best sports journalists around the world working for it now, and lots of those are females. Ali.
And yeah, just on the Academy, at this moment, our first Academy, January 2021, is only open to UAE residents or nationals. But check out CNN.Academy. This is just the beginning of the Academy journey, and hopefully we'll have an Academy in your location very soon.
Brilliant. Well, I think we're up to 4 o'clock, which is the time that Haley gave me. I think we've answered as many questions as we could. We're sorry for everyone if we didn't get to your questions. Please do apply. Deadline October 31.
That's it.
500 words.
500 pitch document, 1 minute short video introduction, quick application, CNN.Academy/Abu Dhabi. I'll pop it in the chat box right now as well.
Brilliant. Thank you, Becky. Thank you, Ali Reza. Thank you, PRCA, Haley. Thank you, everyone who's been here, from the students and also from the industry people. Thank you very much indeed for joining us. And hopefully we'll see you all very soon.